Welcome back to America Decides. The Trump administration is refusing to provide a federal judge more information that the judge requested on last week's deportation flights to El Salvador. Today is the deadline for the Department of Justice to explain why it did not follow the district judge's orders. I want to bring in our Lilia, Luciano, and Jake Rosen for more. Jake, catch us up on where things currently stand.
Well, last night, Attorney General Pam Bondi, alongside Department of Homeland Security Secretary Chrissy Noem, invoked the state secret privilege, which means that they're not intending on giving Judge Boasberg the answers to the questions that he sought, claiming that there are state secrets at play. It hurts their ability to deal with counterterrorism. It hurts their ability to deal with foreign relations as an administration. And from there, the administration says that it planned on filing, at some point today, it's due by the end of the night, a response as to why it did not turn those two planes around.
And how unusual is it, Jake, for a state secret act declaration to be made in court? And what are the implications of that?
Well, I think the implications are huge. And it's very rare. But I think in this specific case, all we're talking about here is two flights. And it's been established in the court record that the president signed this declaration in the dark. It was the day before it was officially announced that migrants, according to CBS News reporting, were moved from around the country to Texas, where they were then put on a flight. And those flights were basically about to take off as the White House hit send on this Alien Enemies Act proclamation, which means that there was some kind of machinations behind the scene. The Alien Enemies Act is meant to be done in daylight. It is something that historically...
Usually consistent with a declaration of war.
Yes, and I would just point out yesterday that a judge raised this by saying that even the Nazis who were removed from the United States in World War II got more due process than these Venezuelan alleged gang members did.
Lilia, you talked to Tom Homan, the border czar.
I talked to Tom Homan because what I have been investigating is who are these men. I have talked so far to two wives of men who don't appear to have any criminal record, not here, not in Venezuela, who say that they have no gang affiliations. One of them is 40 weeks pregnant, past her due date, alone in this country with no answers. I have been reaching out to the government of El Salvador, and they tell me that it is all in the hands of the United States. We cannot give you any information. We're just pretty much holding these men here. Ask your government. So I went to Tom Homan to understand what is the evidence? What is the government relying on in terms of evidence that these men are terrorists, as they call them? This is a little bit of how he responded.
We follow the law, the Alien Enemies Act. Again, people who are removed have less due process than others, and that's for a reason. There's a reason they wrote this statute and this law.
So absolutely no transparency on what the evidence is. All Tom Homan told me today is, I absolutely trust on the intelligence of our good men of eyes who have been investigating these men, but they have presented no evidence.
Am I right in assuming or reading somewhere that they're not even all men who were sent to El Salvador?
There was at least one woman who was reportedly released. So, I mean, there could be women who have gang affiliations.
Sure.
It's just impossible for us to know.
But they're not allowed at that prison in El Salvador.
They're not supposed to be allowed in that prison.
You've been there, right?
I was in that prison last month. This is a prison that was designed for the worst of the gang members who used to terrorize El Salvador. Not everybody there has been convicted of a crime. And the director of the prison told me, look, and so did some of the cabinet members of the Bukele government, yes, they haven't been convicted, but we are certain, we are confident in our evidence, we're confident in our investigations that everybody who is here is a terrorist gang member. It sounds very similar to what we are getting from our government.
And Jake, back to this assertion of the state secret's privilege, what the government is basically saying is, we've made a declaration, we're not going to prove it, and nobody can ask us any questions about it.
Absolutely. And the only information that they've been willing to put on the court record is that at 7:25 p.m. last Saturday night, the planes left U.S. airspace. They claim that because Judge Boasberg, again, this is at the root of this kind of chaos we've seen, because that order that he spoke verbally was not put in the writing to turn those planes around. Judge's orders, let me be clear, when they're issued from the bench, those are immediate, those are firm. But because that was not put in writing, the government says, well, you were too late, you didn't put it in, too late. And too bad. And
Lilia, would it be fair to say that Tom Homan's perspective on this is, even if we made a mistake, we are doing something that is of such super important public safety that mistakes can happen?
He did not acknowledge that mistakes happened. He is adamant that they trust the intelligence. I asked him, I mean, what is that intelligence? Is that going to be revealed? And more importantly, what is the recourse for these men? At least those of us who don't have a criminal record. And of course, he went into the whole, we have to secure the border. I asked the women, the spouses of these men who are detained there, who I interviewed over the last week, and they said, it's fine if they get deported. We'll figure it out. We'll go back to Venezuela with them. One of them is Peruvian, by the way, not even Venezuelan. But why are they in this prison? We have not seen any evidence. They have not had any due process. And Homan told me, under the Alien Enemies Act, people don't get due process.
It just doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So
and they'd be willing, just to
to
pick up on what you just said, to go to Venezuela, just not to El Salvador and not this super bad prison.
even if they have to go to El Salvador, just not have them in this black hole of a prison.
Lilia, Luciano, Jake Rosen, thank you both very, very much.